President Donald Trump remained highly active on social media overnight, posting a series of messages and videos focused on the economy, energy prices, and national politics as his administration continues facing questions over inflation and the cost of living. Among the posts was an AI-generated video portraying the president as a doctor, promoting a fictional treatment for what supporters often refer to as Trump derangement syndrome. The president also shared promotional content highlighting falling oil prices and arguing that Americans will soon see lower gasoline prices ahead of the Independence Day holiday. In another post, President Trump pointed to a fuel promotion in the Philadelphia area, saying consumers would benefit from lower gasoline prices through participating stations. The White House has continued to argue that its economic policies are helping reduce energy costs for American families. However, energy analysts note that while crude oil prices have declined in recent weeks, retail gasoline prices depend on several additional factors, including refinery costs, transportation, seasonal demand, inventories, and local market conditions. As a result, lower crude prices do not always translate immediately into lower prices at the pump. Meanwhile, the administration has also acknowledged challenges facing American agriculture. The U.S. State Department recently issued an emergency authorization allowing temporary duty-free imports of phosphate fertilizer from Morocco. According to the announcement, domestic production of phosphate fertilizer is currently insufficient to fully meet U.S. agricultural demand after accounting for exports. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins also acknowledged that fertilizer prices remain elevated and said farmers continue facing higher production costs despite efforts to stabilize agricultural markets. The administration says it is working to improve supply chains while supporting American farmers through various federal programs. Economic issues remain among the top concerns for voters nationwide. Recent polling continues to show that inflation, housing affordability, grocery prices, and healthcare costs rank among Americans' highest priorities heading into the next phase of the political calendar. President Trump also used social media to criticize the Senate parliamentarian, arguing that Republican leaders should replace the official following several procedural rulings affecting parts of the administration's legislative agenda. The parliamentarian serves as the Senate's nonpartisan advisor on chamber rules and determines whether provisions within budget reconciliation bills comply with Senate procedures. Some Republicans have expressed frustration with recent rulings, while others have defended maintaining the Senate's long-standing institutional practices. Foreign policy also remained in focus. Iranian officials stated that inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, would not currently be permitted to resume inspections at certain nuclear facilities, saying future cooperation would depend on broader diplomatic discussions. Iran also reiterated its position regarding ongoing negotiations with the United States, while American officials continue emphasizing that diplomatic channels remain available despite continuing disagreements. Although both governments continue exchanging public statements, uncertainty remains over whether additional high-level negotiations will occur in the near future. The administration has maintained that it continues evaluating diplomatic and military options while monitoring developments across the Middle East. Meanwhile, political debate continues over defense spending. Administration officials argue that maintaining a strong military remains essential to both national security and long-term economic stability. Critics, however, contend that additional defense spending should be balanced against domestic priorities such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure. The discussion is expected to continue as Congress considers future budget legislation. Political polling also attracted attention today. Several early surveys in competitive races suggest both parties continue preparing aggressively for upcoming elections, although political analysts caution that polls conducted this far in advance often change significantly as campaigns develop. Both Republicans and Democrats remain focused on economic messaging, with each side arguing that its policies offer the strongest path toward improving affordability and strengthening the nation's economy. President Trump also traveled this week to North Dakota, where he participated in events connected to the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. During remarks, he reflected on American history while also discussing international alliances and defense policy. The speech generated political reaction from both supporters and critics, highlighting the continuing divisions surrounding the president's domestic and foreign policy agenda. Meanwhile, commentators from across the political spectrum continued debating the administration's acceptance of a luxury aircraft from Qatar that is expected to undergo extensive modifications before future official use. Supporters argue the aircraft represents an opportunity to modernize presidential transportation, while critics have questioned both the overall cost of modifications and potential national security considerations. As Congress prepares to return to a full legislative schedule, lawmakers are expected to continue debating energy policy, agriculture, federal spending, defense priorities, and the broader direction of the U.S. economy. Those discussions are likely to remain central topics as both parties continue making their case to American voters in the months ahead. You're listening to our National Affairs Bulletin. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more national and international news throughout the day.